And I hear you have a son.
Yes. Lucius.
So Lucius from Gladiator II wasn't just a fictional character. He was a real prince of Rome that lived in the 2nd century. But if it wasn't for his untimely death, the history of the Roman Empire would have been dramatically different. Here is the true story. Marcus Aurelius was destined to become emperor. Even from a young age, his calm and thoughtful nature was recognized by Emperor Hadrian, who saw great potential in him and arranged for his own successor, a man called Antoninus Pius, to adopt Marcus as his son after Marcus's father had died, creating a clear line of succession. But when Marcus Aurelius finally did ascend the throne, he didn't rule alone, not at first. For the first 8 years of his reign, he shared power with his adoptive brother, Lucius Verus, making it the first time in Roman history that they had 2 emperors ruling simultaneously.
Master Lucius, it is time.
I have to go.
Your name is Lucius?
Lucius Verus, after my father.
Lucius Verus was from a powerful family in Rome, but his father died when he was young and he ended up being adopted by the same man that adopted Marcus Aurelius, Antoninus Pius. While Marcus was serious, disciplined, and deeply philosophical, Lucius was charming, indulgent, and enjoyed the finer things in life. But despite their differences, they worked surprisingly well together. Marcus Aurelius focused on governance, philosophy, and his books, while Lucius Verus was more involved in the military and social matters. And together they led Rome through some very tough times. In real life, Marcus Aurelius did have a daughter named Lucilla, who actually plays a key role in the Gladiator films. And historically, Lucilla was married off to Lucius Verus at the age of 11 to strengthen the bond between these 2 rulers and their 2 families. The records show that Lucilla and Lucius Verus ended up having 3 children together. A son called Lucius Verus II and 2 daughters, Aurelia Lucilla and Lucilla Plotia. Not long after that, Lucilla's husband, Lucius Verus, the co-emperor, he was sent to the east. The Parthians had recently invaded Armenia, which was a Roman client state at the time. And Lucius Verus was tasked with commanding the Roman forces in the east, while Marcus Aurelius would stay in Rome to manage things at home. It took Lucius Verus around 9 months to reach Antioch, and along the way he stopped in various different cities and was enjoying himself. He was going for hunts, attending parties, meeting prominent people, and some people thought he viewed it as kind of an extended holiday rather than a serious military campaign. But luckily, there were very capable generals in the Roman army on the front lines fighting the Parthians, and they managed to push them back and eventually take the Parthian city of Ctesiphon, sacking it, burning it, and destroying their royal palace there. And that was the end of the Parthian War, and naturally Lucius Verus took all the credit, and when he returned to Rome, he was hailed with a triumph. But the Roman army, when they returned, they also brought something else back with them. They brought back a terrible plague, which is known to history as the Antonine Plague. A Roman physician at the time named Galens described this disease. He described the symptoms of it, which were diarrhea, vomiting, and pustules on the skin. And the plague was so bad that it wiped out nearly 10% of the population of the Roman Empire at the time. And not long after Lucius Verus had returned from his campaign, he is said to have come down with an illness, and he died 3 days later. So it's quite possible that he was also a victim of the plague. And not long after Lucius Verus died,
What does your father say?
My father is dead.
all 3 of Lucilla's children, including the young Lucius, died from illness as well. So Lucilla's entire family basically was wiped out. So in reality, the real Lucius, the son of Lucilla, the grandson of Marcus Aurelius, he died in childhood. He didn't get to grow up to live to his full potential. But we can see that the Lucius, in reality, he mirrors the Lucius that we see in the Gladiator films. He's both the son of Lucilla and the grandson of Marcus Aurelius. So if he lived, if he didn't die at a young age, he could have grown up and would have had a very strong claim to the throne. And it wasn't uncommon for children to die at a young age in ancient Rome. There was still a very high infant mortality rate, even if you were part of the imperial family. After Lucilla's entire family was wiped out, she was left on her own. And being a woman of high status, her father quickly arranged her to marry again, this time to a Roman general called Pompinianus. And he was a native of Antioch, Syria. He was a distinguished commander, both in the Parthian Wars under Lucius Verus, and he also served in the wars against the Germanic tribes under Marcus Aurelius. He was a very distinguished military man, but he wasn't from quite the same social class as Lucilla, and she didn't really want to marry him. She wasn't so infatuated with him, but she married him anyways, and they ended up having one son together. So this would have been her fourth child, and their son they named after the father, Pompinianus. And eventually, as Marcus Aurelius got older, he eventually also died from the Antonine Plague, and his son Commodus ascended the throne. Commodus was one of the worst emperors in Roman history. He completely ignored all of his duties and all of his responsibilities as emperor, and he devoted all of his time to his harem of 300 women which he kept. He was also obsessed with the gladiatorial games. He spent all of his time training to fight in the arena. This was sacrilege at the time for a Roman emperor to lower himself to be a gladiator in the arena, because gladiators were, at the end of the day, they were slaves. So it was really frowned upon and very taboo. And Commodus also loved ordering executions, not only of his enemies, but even of his friends and his family members. And as Commodus became more and more deranged, Lucilla started to become unhappy with his behavior as time went on. And it's even said that the last straw for Lucilla came when Commodus revoked her seat in the Colosseum, which was in the box area where all the wealthy people would sit and watch the games. He revoked her seat and replaced it with his new wife that he had taken, Crispina. And this really pissed off Lucilla. And after that, she began to plot to murder her brother Commodus. She was plotting with her lover, which she had taken, Quintinianus, and a few other disgruntled senators. But the assassination attempt failed, and Commodus caught everyone involved and found out that Lucilla was one of the main people behind it, and he exiled her to the island of Capri. And that's where she would spend the last of her days, because not long after that, Commodus sent his centurions in the night to kill his sister Lucilla. And so that's how Lucilla died. Different to the first Gladiator movie where she actually outlives Commodus. In reality, Commodus actually killed her. But her son, Pompinianus, from her second marriage, was still alive, as well as her second husband. It was found out that he wasn't involved in the plot at all, so he was allowed to continue living on, and he completely detached himself. He left Rome and he went to retire in a village somewhere. His son Pompinianus would have been around 5 when his mother was executed by Commodus. And his son grew up and he lived a good life. He joined the army just like his father. He had a great career in the army and eventually became a senator. And he lived through a few different Roman emperors. And when he was in his early 30s, Caracalla would have ascended the throne. And after Caracalla murdered his brother Geta and went on a purge to kill all of Geta's supporters, he ended up killing Pompinianus, the last son of Lucilla, by hiring bandits to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Caracalla, he probably knew that Pompinianus, being the son of Lucilla, being the grandson of Marcus Aurelius, had a pretty strong claim to the throne, and Caracalla was very good at eliminating anyone who could pose a potential threat to him. And sadly, that's the end of all of the grandsons of Marcus Aurelius. But what we see in Gladiator II, I find it really interesting how they actually did their research and they found this real grandson of Marcus Aurelius that existed, and they actually used him in the story. They took his name, but they played out a kind of alternate historical scenario where this young Lucius would have grown up and survived, and what would have happened, you know, if things were different and his life didn't end at such a young age. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned something new, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.